Yes, sir, visible, sir.
Yes, yes, sir.
Last time. Last time discussions.
Sir, excuse me, sir.
Let's start the today's discussions and just want to give the recap that what are the things we have already studied last time. That is, you all know that we have last time we have studied about that is how the we can represent geometrically we can represent the transmitted signals from the transmitted signals represented in the vector. And then we have seen that how by using the geometrical concept, how can we prove the Shewhart inequality, which we have already used in the Myers filter concept while discussing about the Myers filter concept for the calculation of the maximum signal to noise ratio. And then we have seen that phi 1, phi 2, phi 3, phi n, which are the n orthogonal basis functions. How can we describe, how can we actually describe mathematically and by functions wise that phi 1, phi 2, phi 3 will be in orthogonal to each other. So for that we have studied about the Gram's orthogonality procedure, and from there we have already seen that if you follow these basic formulas, that is if you define phi 2 by g2 t by or you can say in general GIT is given as SIT, where SIT is what? SIT is the transmitter signal and SIJ are the coefficient, IJ are the basis functions. In terms of this, if you define this CIT and where SIT is calculated from this formula, then IIT, if you define by this formula, which is then phi 1 and RSI, that is phi 1, phi 2, phi 3, all phi's will be orthogonal to each other. For that, we have taken the examples, that is, we have defined this phi 1 by this formula, and then we have defined this phi 2 by this formula. Then we have seen that this one is satisfying the basic properties of the basis functions. That is, once they will be orthogonal to each other, the integration phi 1, phi 2 is coming out to be 0, which we have already proved. And it carries the unit energy. So for that one also, these two relations are satisfied. Similarly, we have generalized these procedures, which is called as Gram's orthogonalization procedures. And following this, we can define this phi, which will be now. We are moving to the next topic. Actually, this topic is not written in your actually syllabus, but without knowing this topic, we cannot move to the another, which is called as maximum likelihood detection. So that's why I want to give you quickly give you about some concept about the conversion of the continuous AWG in channel into vector channel. So AW, the things what we have already studied about the basic block diagram of the communication systems. This one from this chapter, from the starting of our discussions in this particular module, we have considered this block diagram only. That is, there is a source, message source, emits the MI symbols. I can vary from 1 to M, and then there is a transmitter which code this MI during the interval of 0 to T whenever this MI appears. So that corresponds to SIT, and this SIT is sent to the channel where additive Gaussian noise may be added in this, and the received signal is nothing but the ST. If there is no noise, then received signal will be nothing but SIT only. SIT only. If there is a noise, then this XT will be nothing but SIT plus WT, that is the white Gaussian noise. And this then receiver makes the decisions in the favor of MI with the minimum probability of error. That is M estimate. M cap receiver output will be estimate of that M, which is MI. Now we will be looking at this receivers. That is, our aim is to estimate the maximum likelihood detection. That is how this receiver can detect this MI with the minimum probability of error. So before going to that actually the topic and that concept, we need to study something about the channel. For that, if you can see in the earlier, if you have not considered this noise, effect of the noise in the channel, then SIT will be received at the receiver. So if this SIT is received at the receiver's, then we have seen this block diagram, which is called as analyzer. That is, from this SIT, how we can calculate the various coefficients like SI1, SI2, SIN. You know that this SIT, this SIJ is nothing but integration over SIT divided by SIT. This is nothing but just by using this multipliers and the integrate block like this block diagram I have already explained in this particular slide. You can see this is called synthesizer, this is called analyzer. Simply tells us that from the received signals, how can we generate the coefficients? And on the basis of these coefficients, only we will be making the decision in the favor of I with the minimum probability of error. Yes, I have considered this problem only. So this SIT, how can we generate that coefficient? Now, since we are going to receive, now we are going to receive this receiver, you can see directly receives the signal SIT, hence it does not consider the effect of any noise. But in place of this, we are going to design the receivers that is using the maximum likelihood detectors. Then we must have to consider the effect of the noise also. In place of this SIT, this XT signal is received because in the presence of noise, this XT will be nothing but SIT plus white noise, WT. So if in place of this this SIT directly, if there is some effect of the channel noise, then the signals corresponding to that is XT, which is given by SIT plus WT, SIT plus the additive white gas noise is added in the channel. Then XT is represented by, in the receiver block, this XT is represented by SIT plus WT. Now, if we assume this WT is what? WT is the sample functions of the Gaussian noise. So this is the process. WT is the process, and this one is the WT. Small WT is the sample value of this Gaussian noise process, because we have assumed that the noise is Gaussian noise. And we have further assumed that it is having the zero mean, having the point spectral density, and that is the basic property of the white Gaussian noise. Okay. Now, similarly, if we assume that this as a correlator, that is there are n numbers of correlators used. So if you consider this as a jth correlator, then corresponding output of this jth correlator is the sample value of random variable, because if this xt SIT is not the random in nature, because if SIT we consider in the absence of the noise, but if you consider xt, then since in xt the noise is added, so this xt becomes the random variable, random process. So similarly, once the input is random in nature, then output will also be random in nature. So suppose the variables what we are getting at the output is xj, and the sample value of that, the sample value of this one is given by xj. Then this xj will be simply how much? xt, then integration of that 0 to t multiplied by 5j. So we can write this xjt output sample value. Output sample value of corresponding to this xt are the jth correlator, that is xj. Xj, capital Xj is the random variable, and the sample value of that one is xj. So xj is given as xt, then ijt, and the integration over 0 to t dt. And since we know that xt is nothing but SIT plus WT, so SIT plus WT, you almost remember all these nomenclatures. What I'm telling you, that is xj are the random variables of the output, the sample value of the jth correlator, and xt is the input signals in the effect of the noise, that is SIT. This you should remember, otherwise you won't be able to understand the further concept. So this xj will be 0 to t xt 5j, and this xt is nothing but the SIT. So SIT plus WT, so we can write it as SIT plus SIT 5j plus 0 to t WT 5j. This factor we can represent it by Sij. We all know that Sij, these coefficients are represented by the Sij. That's why these coefficients were mentioned, because if suppose there is no noise, then this term will be 0, and then output will be Sij only. But since here we are considering the effect of the noise, so in place of SIT, we have considered over the xt, and then output will be the random in nature. And because of that, it will consist of terms, where the first term is Sij, and the second term is, we have represented it by Wj, which is given as Wt ijt, Okay, hence xj, we can directly write it as Sij plus Wj. Sij plus Wj, where Sij is given by 0 to t SIT 5j, and Wj is given by Wt 5j. Now, just to understand, if we assume another random process x dash t, which is defined by this expression, that is xt minus summation j minus 1 to j equals to 1 to n xj ijt. If we suppose we find the random variable, another random process x dash t, which is given by this one, then x dash t we can write by xt is nothing but SIT plus WT, Xj is nothing but Sij plus Wt, that is the effect of the signal plus noise, minus this term, that is Xj is nothing but Sij plus Wj, Sij plus Wj. If you further simplify it, then Sit, since Sit is equal to summation Sij phi j t, this is summation which we have already studied earlier. So these two terms will cancel out and add the output. This x dash t, we can write it as simply Wt minus summation Wj phi j t. So you can see the first term is related to the noise only, and the second term is also related to the noise term only, and there is no signal term is involved. Hence, we can directly write that x dash t is simply we can write by another term, which is W dash t, which is given by this one, and that only happens because of the noise. So we can finally write this xt. We can finally write this xt as x dash t plus this term, and this x dash t is nothing but a W dash t, which is given by this term. So we can write it as xt equals to x dash t, which is nothing but a W dash t, and this term, the summation term will be as it is. Summation j equals to 1 to n xj phi j t and xj phi j t. Now coming to this, if we assume here that since our noise is AWGN, white additive white Gaussian noise, okay, output random variable. See, this one is the random in nature, so this will also be random in nature. And if this one is Gaussian random variable, then output will also be the Gaussian random variable. Okay, characterize this samples value. Okay, these coefficients and correspondingly the output vector that is called as observations vector x, which will be defining later. We must have to calculate the mean and variance of the output random variable. Suppose this one is the correlator, like in whole actually blocks we have written simply the correlator. If suppose this one is the correlator, where xt is the random process, which is Gaussian in nature, then since Wt is added, so this is the because of that only it becomes the random process. And Gaussian in nature, output which is given by the random variable xj will also be Gaussian random variable, just because of the basic property of the Gaussian distribution functions which we already studied in the PRP. Then output of the correlator will also be the Gaussian random variable. So this xj, this random variable xj, we can completely define in terms of the mean of this xj, and variance of this xj. So we want to calculate the mean and variance of this xj so that we can define the conditional probability density function, and then corresponding to that we can define the observations vector x, and we can define that observations vector x will be close to that transmitted bit mi. That observations vector x will be close to that mi, so that the minimum probability of error can occur. So you remember that this if xt is the Gaussian distribution, then xj will also be the Gaussian random variables, and this we can completely define knowing the mean and variance of this xj. And the sample value of this xj is nothing but a small xj, which is given by Sij plus Wj. We have already seen in the previous slide, Sij plus Wj. Okay, so this is the sample value. So now let us calculate the mean and variance so that we can completely define this output random variable of the correlator. So the mean of that will be expected value of xj, and since we know that xj is Sij plus Wj, the Sij plus Wj, so expected value of Sij, since this is the constant, so it will be Sij only, and the expected value of Wj, and since we have assumed as a zero white Gaussian noise, so expected value of Wj will be nothing but 0, and hence the new xj will be nothing but the Xij. That is, we have calculated the mean value of this xj, which is coming up to be Sij. Similarly, we can calculate the variance, and now if we have the mean and variance, we can completely define the conditional density functions of this xj, and on the basis of that we can calculate the probability, and we can say that what should later on we will see that what is happening by using that probability expression. So this mu xj is given by Sij. Now let us calculate the variance. How can we calculate the variance? Variance of xj is nothing but variance of xj, which is given as expected value of xj minus mu xj. Mu xj we have already calculated Sij, so we can write it as expected value of xj minus Sij whole square. So you can see this Sj minus Xij. So xj equals to Sij plus Wj. So xj minus Sij, this will be whole square will be simply Wj square. So this is expected value of Wj square, and expected value of since Wj using this expression, since the Wj is defined by Wt phi j t, Wj Wt phi j t. So this output, this is the output noise random variable of the jth correlator, and Wt is the input noise. So this expected value of Wj square. So since Wj is defined as Wt phi j because once the noise passes through the correlator, the output from the ith correlator will be 0 to Wt phi j. Okay. Hence, expected value of Wj square we can calculate how sigma x square is nothing but expected value of 0 to t Wt phi j t dt, and here we can take another dummy variable wu phi ju du, and this we can write as phi jt phi ju wt w dt du. And you know, again you can actually think that it will come out the integrations functions respective value we can take within the integrations, and we can write it as phi j phi I phi j expected value of wt w dt du. Expected value of wt w is nothing but the autocorrelations function RWT, and we know that the autocorrelations function of the white gas mass is nothing but n naught by 2 delta t minus 2. So we can replace that RTU. So since RTU is known, n naught by 2 delta t minus 2, we can replace this, and we can write sigma x square n naught by 2 0 to t 0 to phi j t phi ju delta t minus 2 in the area under this curve the unity. So 0 to t because once j this phi j square t we can write, and part t equals to the first function will become 1. So 0 to t phi j square t, this integration we can write by this one. And we know that if j equals to k, then the phi j square t phi j any basis function carries the unity energy. So the value of this integration will be unity, and the sigma x square will be nothing but n. Hence, if you have the correlator whose input is the random variable, random process xt, whose sample value is taken as x, small xt, and the output of this jth correlator is nothing but another random variable xj, whose mean we know how much we have calculated sij, and the variance we have calculated is nothing but the power spectral density of this white Gaussian mass, that is same to that of the power spectral density of the white Gaussian mass, not by 2. Hence, for this we can define, as far as this we can define that conditional density function. So how can we define available data? Now, at the same times, the output of the R correlators, like if this one is the jth, this one is the kth correlators, then output of that one is xk. These are uncorrelated to each other. As you can see here, n numbers of correlators are used. N numbers of correlators are used. Output of this one is random variable xj, and if suppose output of this correlator is xk, then this xj and sk are independent and at the same times uncorrelated to each other. How can we say that all are independent and they are mutually uncorrelated to each other? So for that we have already said that if we calculate the covariance, the value of the covariance is coming out to be 0, then we can say that the output of the correlators are mutually uncorrelated. And if they are mutually uncorrelated and if they are Gaussian distributed functions, then definitely they will be independent also. So that is the just by using the basic concept say that. So let us see that how can we say that they are mutually uncorrelated. So for that we can calculate the covariance xj, which is given by expected value of xj minus mu xj, and then xk minus mu xk. So we have already know, we have already calculated that this one mean value of xj, which is sij. So the mean value of xk will be sik. Expected value of xj minus si, xk minus sik. Since we know that Sj equals to Sij Wj, so the difference of this will be Wj. Similarly, difference of this will be Wk. So we can write it as expected value of Wj Wk. This we can write as expected value of 0 to t, because Wj is Wt phi j t and Wk is W phi k u du. So we can write again in the similar way Wj phi j t ku or Wtu. Then Rw is nothing but n naught by 2 delta t minus 2. The value of this integration again will be unity, and we can write it as phi j t phi k t. Now you can see if j is not equal to k, if j is equal to k, then this expression will be nothing but it will be simply this expression will be nothing but it will be simply same to that of the variance, calculation of the variance. So here, since J is not equal to K, if J is not equal to K, just using the basic properties of the basis functions, we can say the value of this integrations will be G. Hence, since the covariance are both the samples value, that is the output of the correlator K and output of the correlator J, both have covariance of both is 0, which we can say that both are mutually uncorrelated. And since both are Gaussian distribution functions and both are mutually uncorrelated, so definitely they will be statistically independent. Just by using the basic property. So, since there are n numbers of correlators whose outputs are say x1, x2, xa, xk, and then finally xn, so we can define an n random vector for all these n random variables, because there are n numbers of correlators, the output of each one is having another random variables which is given by say x1, x2, xa, xk, xn. Then we can define a random vectors x which is given by x1, x2, xn. And all these x1, x2, x3, xn will be mutually uncorrelated, because here we have seen for the output of the two correlators, jth correlator and kth correlator, we have seen that covariance is coming out to be 0 and both are independent to each other. Similarly, we can also prove that if we consider the first and second correlator, or second and third, or first and third, or any combinations, if we take them mutually uncorrelated and they are independent. Hence, we can define a vector x at the output, whose elements are given by x1, x2, x3, xn, and all these xi's, you can say xi's are mutually uncorrelated and statistically independent. Hence, now, as I told you, that we need to, why we have calculated this variance, why we have calculated this mean, just to define the, just to characterize that, just to define the conditional density function. Conditional density function. So you can see the conditional density functions are this random vector x, which consists the n numbers of vectors. Okay. And both all are independent to each other. So we know that if all are independent to each other, then the density functions becomes the product of their individual density functions. So here you can see that if you want to write, the conditional density function of the vector x, given that the symbol mi has been transmitted, like if you see this block diagram, this one, that mi is transmitted, whereas from the n numbers of correlators we are having the n numbers of random variables which are Gaussian distributed functions, and correspondingly we can define a random vector x which consists the n numbers of random variables. So this x for the that mi is transmitted, because our aim is to estimate this mi only. So because of that only we are defining over here the conditional density functions of the random vector x at output, and this random vector x is called as observations vector. Right? Like here you can see the random vector x given that mi is transmitted. So here you can see this x, capital X, and this x. So this is the sample value. Capital X is the random vector, right? Random vector. The sample value of that random vector is called as observations vector. Vector x is called the observations vector, and in the observation, like the value of this x is small x, so that is called as observations vector. And the value of this xi is small xi, x1, small x2, like that. So these are the sample value, and these are the random variables. So these are called, this x is called as random variable, and this small x is called as observations vectors, and correspondingly x is called as observation element. And the conditional density functions of the vector x when mi is transmitted is given as j equals to 1 to n, because there are n numbers of correlators and the output of all are independent to each other. Hence, we can simply take the product of their individual output of the individual correlators. That is, there are n numbers of correlators. So fxa, and xa is nothing but the observable elements. That is corresponding to jth correlator. Output is xa, corresponding to jth correlator. Random variable is xa, and the sample value of that one is given by small xa. For mi is transmitted. So that will be simply product. And from that, we can define the conditional density functions. Since we know that for the jth correlator, this conditional density function can be defined as simply 1 upon under 2 by sigma square to the power minus x minus mu whole square by 2 sigma square. And since we have calculated this sigma square as n naught by 2, so we can write it as 1 upon under pi n naught. So exponential x minus mu is nothing but Sij, xj minus Sij whole square by n naught. So this is the conditional probability density functions for the jth correlator. So overall, for the vector x, conditional density functions will be nothing but the product of this, because here it is a product sign. Hence, in terms of this, we can write fx x given mi as if you take the product of this, then it will be nothing but 1 upon this term. This term will be nothing but 1 upon under pi n naught, 1 upon under pi naught over n numbers of terms. Here we can write as 1 upon pi n naught to the power n by 2, which is nothing but pi n naught to the power minus n by 2. Pi n naught to the power minus n naught by 2. This term is coming over here. Now, exponential term, product of the exponential is nothing but their sum. So exponential we can write as 1 upon n naught and then sum. Because product in the exponent will be nothing but the sum in the exponent. So product of the exponential is nothing but the sum in the exponent. So we can write it as exp minus 1 by n naught summation xi xj sij whole square, where j will be from up here. So this is the overall expression of the conditional density functions of the observations vector x. Hence, observations vector x, we can simply write in terms of the vector form, that is Si plus W. That is Si plus Si W, because this Si is also a column vector, this x is also a column vector, and this W is also the column vector, which will consist the effect of the noise because of the output letters. So output observations vector, like if you have the n numbers of correlators, then for that we may define the observations vector x, which is the sum of Si plus W. So this is a very important relationship, because this will be used in the further discussion. Now, so this is the concept we have studied. Now, knowing this concept, let us define, this is clearly written in our syllabus, that is likelihood functions. So, based on this likelihood functions, next time, next topic, like in the maximum likelihood decoding, we will study that how this correlator can decode that Mi has been transmitted from the transmitter side from the given observations vector x. This is nothing but decided by the maximum likelihood decoding, and this maximum likelihood decoding is based on likelihood function. Here, what we are going to study, that is, first we are going to define the likelihood function, which is very simple to understand. And with the help of these likelihood functions, how can we describe this maximum likelihood decoding? And we simply tells us that knowing the observations vector x at the receivers, how can we say that Mi is transmitted with the minimum probability of error? How can we detect? So this is nothing but the maximum likelihood detection. First, before that, let us understand the basic concept of likelihood function. What is the likelihood function? That is, you might be surprised that till now we have defined that we have n numbers of correlators. Output of this correlator is say x1, x2, and so on up to xn, and the sample value of this x1 is x1, x2, and so on xn. And considering this, we have defined the observations vector x, which is nothing but the column vector say x1, x2, xn, or the r and numbers of correlators. Okay, and then we have defined that what will be the conditional distribution function, density function of this x, which is given by fx x given mi. This we have already calculated, where this x is the vector, capital X is the random vectors, and this small x is the value taken. This is called as observations vector. So now looking this, you can see that this simply tells that knowing these conditional density functions, we can calculate the even probability of error. That is probability of error that is in the detections of MI. So what happens if you want to calculate the probability of error in the detection of MI at the receiver side? Then it is even we should know the reverse of these functions. That is, it simply tells us that the value of observations vector x when MI is transmitted. Whereas at the receiver side, we want to know that is what will be MI for the given observations vector x. That is, our aim is to detect this MI. That is MI which was transmitted from the transmitter side, and it is received. And here we are calculating this x. So we know this x, and knowing this x, that is for the given value of the x, our aim is to calculate the probability of estimating this MI, that is M cap. So in fact, we have defined this fx x given MI, but our aim at the receiving side is to get MI given x. So for that, we will see that how can we calculate this probability of error MI at the when given x. We will see later. But this likelihood function is simply defined as LMI, which is nothing but the conditional density functions what we have already defined in the previous slide. That is fx x given MI. That is nothing but this expressions only. That is what we have calculated. This fx x given MI is nothing but we call it as likelihood function. And this likelihood function, so you will see later on while discussing in the maximum likelihood decoding. In the maximum likelihood decoding, studying this topic, we will see that in the maximum likelihood detections, it does nothing. Rather, that detections technique tries to maximize this small LMI or simply LMI. So there is a decoder which simply calculates this LMI as capital LMI, and the basis of that, the maximum value is chosen so that it can easily detect that which MI has been transmitted. So for the transmitter's symbols MI, the max likelihood function is defined as LMI, which is given as fx x given MI. And if we take the log of this, that is log of LMI, log of this, then it is called as log likelihood function. This is called as likelihood function simply. And if you take the log of that one, that is called as log likelihood function. And you can see in the log, either it is actually, this one is more commonly used rather than this one. So if you take the log of this LMI, then it is called as log likelihood function because it carries the similar type of concept what it has. Because you can see fxx, it is the density function, so its value will always be greater than 0. So LMI will also be greater than 0. So if LMI is always greater than 0, then small LMI will also be greater than 0. And at the sometimes there is no as such the LMI for which this small LMI cannot be defined. Because LMI is always greater than 0, it cannot be negative. Okay. And at the same time, if LMI increases, so since this log function is the increasing functions, then this LMI will also, small LMI will also increase. So we can define, in place of defining this likelihood function by fx x given MI, we can actually more commonly use is the log likelihood function. That is log of LMI is nothing but small LMI. And we will see in the next topic, that is in the maximum likelihood detection techniques, that we are just trying to maximize this LMI for the given observations vector x to get the minimum probability of. So, but here you should know that is what is likelihood function. So, likelihood function is nothing but the conditional density functions what we have defined earlier is given by LMI, and if you take the log of that is called as log likelihood function, which is given by log of LMI, and both are having the one-to-one relationship. Okay, that is if LMI increases, then this small LMI will also increase, and at the same time it is having the negative. So since this LMI is given as fx x given MI, and this x given MI we have already defined. This x given MI we have already defined by this expression. So we can define now this LMI, small LMI, especially for the AWGN channel. So how can we define? You can see this expression fx x given MI is defined, which I have again rewritten over here. That is fx x given mi is defined by pi n naught minus n by 2 exponential minus 1 by n naught summation by this term. So if you take the log of that one, because this is nothing but capital LMI. And if you take the log of that capital LMI, it will give us the small LMI. That is the log likelihood functions. So to get the small li, we need to simply take the log of these functions. If you take the log of these functions, then it will be nothing but first term will be how much? First term will be n naught by 2 log of pi n naught. So you can see L naught by 2 log of pi n naught is ignored over here. Ignored. Why we have ignored? Because it does not carry any message information. So it only carries carry that this one noise term. So we can ignore this term because this plus log of this term. So log of exponential of this term will be nothing but this term only. It is given as minus 1 upon n naught. Yeah, this term, this expression will be using in the likelihood functions while defining the maximum likelihood decoding techniques. You should remember that it will come out to minus 1 by n naught summation j equals to 1 to 1 xj minus sij whole square. And this term we have neglected because there is no message term is involved. But here you can say the message term is mi is involved because xj is nothing but si plus si plus si is related to the mi. So this is the maximum log likelihood function. So now knowing the basic concept about the likelihood functions, how it is defined, and log likelihood functions, how it is defined, and how can we define the log likelihood function specifically for the AWGN channel, specifically for the AWGN channel, which is this expression. We can now move to the maximum likelihood decoding technique. So we will be studying these techniques first, and then based on these techniques, our next topic will be the correlator receiver. So here the two topics are like, one is the maximum likelihood decoding, and then another is the correlator receiver. So this correlator receiver is very easy. If you are able to understand this, which is also very easy to understand because the things what I have discussed, knowing that you can very easily understand the basic concept of maximum likelihood decoding. Now, so first let us see that what is the maximum likelihood decoding. For that, let us see the basic introductions about that. Now, we know that observations, because here we have the n numbers of correlators, and observations vector x is defined as si plus w. This is the observations vector x, which is defined as si plus w. And what is the observations vector x? Observations vector x is nothing but a sample value of the random vector x, which is nothing but the column vector x of n random variables x capital x1, x2, x3, xj. A sample value of each one is given as small x1, x2, xj. So based on this x only, because you can see this one is the message source which generates the mi, that block diagram, and this one is the transmitter which actually code this mi to the sit. Now once it passes through the channel, it generates xt. Now once this xt passes to the receiver, this is the channel receiver, it generates the random observations random vector x. Now on the basis of observations random vector x only, we have to decide that which mi has been transmitted. So let us see that in the channel the w is added. So as we know that this xt is given as sit plus wt. This xt is given as sit plus wt. So you can see, if you look at the three-dimensional Euclidean space, then here we have taken the three basis functions phi1, phi2, phi3. Now you can see this x, which is the observations vector, at the output of this receiver, which is given by si plus w. And this si is what? Si is corresponding to the signal term only, sit. Okay? So suppose a message signal mi is transmitted. which is definitely represented by the signal vector Si. Signal vector Si. Now, so this point we call it as message point or transmitter point. Now, our received vector, which we call it as observations vector, on the basis of which we define, which we determine this Mi, is given by Si plus W. So you can see, if there is no noise, that is this W is 0, then this observations vector X is directly equal to the Si. That is just by detecting this message points, we can detecting this Si, we can easily calculate Mi without any error. But due to this noise W, which is added in the received signal Si, which is added in the message point Mi, which is added in, which is called as noise vector W, which is added in the message point W, generates the observations vector X, which is given by this. This is called as observations vector X, which is nothing but the sum of Si plus W. Now, our aim is to observe this point, message point. When we can observe this message point, when this noise vector is 0. If the noise vector is 0, we can easily, this X will be nothing but same to that of the Si, and we can easily detect this message. But unfortunately, since we cannot avoid this bias, and we are considering over here the bias, and unfortunately, the nature of this noise is random in nature. The nature of this noise is random in nature. Hence, we cannot say that this noise vector will be either in these directions, it may be in these directions, it may be in these directions, it may be of this much magnitude, it may be of this much magnitude. It forms the noise cloud across the message point, which is given by the top figure. And correspondingly, this received point, this message point is fixed, but because of, since the received point is nothing but the sum of this message point with the noise vector, and this noise vector is random in nature, which can roam anywhere in the noise cloud. So similarly, this received vector can also roam anywhere in the noise cloud, which is a class the message point. And because of that only, there is a chance of error. So our aim is to, on the basis of this Xi, we need to detect that which Mi has been transmitted. So that is actually done by the maximum likelihood decoding. So our aim that we can actually state our problem, that is what is our actually detection stacking, what we want to actually detect, that is given the observations vector X, that is for the given observations vector X, this is observations vector X, or the given observations vector X, this is known, for the given observations vector X, perform a mapping from X to estimate M cap, because for the given, as I told you, for the given vector observations vector X, we need to find out this Mi. So since because of the noise only, we cannot exactly find out, we can estimate that okay, this symbol is nothing but the Mi symbol has been transmitted. So further, our aim is here detections problem is that given the observations vector X, perform a mapping from X to estimate M cap of the transmitted symbols Mi in a way that would minimize the probability of error in the detections making process. So that is called as maximum. So if you are able to actually detect, if you are able to get the solution of this problem, that is nothing but maximum likelihood decoding. So you can see that is our aim is, that is for given observations vector X, perform a mapping from X to estimate M cap, which is nothing but the estimate of the transmitted symbols Mi, as I told you, transmitted symbol Mi in a way would minimize the probability of error in the decision making process. That is called as maximum likelihood decoding. So how can we do this? So for that, what is the probability of error? That probability of error, our aim is to calculate the probability of error that Mi has been transmitted given that X or the given observations vector. So our aim is to calculate this one only. So how can we calculate the probability of error? That is the transmitted vector, that is the received vector is Mi for the given X. So if Mi is transmitted, then definitely we expect that received vector will be Mi only. And then for the given X, because based on the observations vector, we have to define this Mi. So that is nothing but given us, since this one is the probability of error we want to calculate. So it is nothing but the probability that mi not sent. Mi not sent. That is probability that mi not sent. Then only the error will occur. Na? So we need to calculate probability that mi not sent, which is called as probability of error, which we want to minimize this. That is when the error will occur. That is mi not sent for the given x, and receiver decides that mi has been sent. So in that case, the error will occur, and which is given as 1 minus probability of mi sent. Mi not sent is given as probability of mi sent given x. So this probability of error we want to minimize. Okay, during the estimate of this mi. So for that we can set the optimum decision rule. We can set the optimum decision rule. What is that optimum decision rule? That is, if you have a receivers, and this receivers will decide, that is the estimated value of symbols is nothing but mi. When it will decide that estimated value is nothing but the mi, when probability of mi sent given x is greater than equal to probability of mk sent given x. Like suppose if you have the two correlators only, right? If this one is the jth correlator, this one is the kth correlator. So if the output of this correlator, the probability of that is mi. Suppose this one is the ith one. Mi sent for the given x observations vector is greater than this probability, then we should make our decision in the favor of this. That is the probability of this. That is mi has been sent is greater than the probability of mk has been sent. So the decision, the receivers can make the decision in the favor of mi. So estimation that receiver can set the estimate, that is the mi has been transmitted when the mi sent, this k is not equal to y definitely, and this k and I can vary from 1 to n because there are numbers of correlators. So we can set the m cap in the favor of mi, that is the estimated value we can set in the favor of mi, if the probability of any ith correlator, that is the correlator that is mi has been sent given for the given observations vector is given is greater than or equal to probability of mk sent given x. Now, so how this is nothing but the conditional probability, and conditional probability of a given b equals to probability of b given a into probability of a divided by probability of b. We can use the base rules, and we can write this as a probability of mi sent given x. This we can write it as probability of x given mi sent into probability of mi divided by probability of x will be greater than or equal to this, or this probability will be less than or equal to this. So since this probability becomes less than or equal to this, it means that the maximum probability will be when we can write in terms of conditional density functions, because probability we can write integration of the conditional density functions. So you can see this, here is the k, here is the I. So this will be less than or equal to this. It means that the maximum value of this probability, whatever it is, we want to, if you are able to find out, then it means that is nothing but this probability, that is pk, because you can see this we can write as probability of k. K is nothing but k, probability of k into probability of x given mk divided by probability of x. So probability of x is directly proportional to conditional density functions, and similarly probability of mk will be as it is, and probability of a given mk is nothing but the probability of x is directly proportional to the unconditional density function, and the probability of x given mk is directly proportional to the density function. So we can say that pk is the probability of this, whether the a pk probability of that kth symbol has been mk has been transmitted, and then probability of x given mk. So x given mk is directly proportional to f x given mk, and this probability and this probability, sorry, it is here. Probability of b, which is the probability of x, is directly proportional to the x. So this probability should be less than or equal to this. It means that the maximum value of that, if you are able to calculate, is maximum for k equals to I. K equals to I, because for k equals to I, both the probability will be equal. So otherwise, for rest of the k equals to I, this probability will always be greater than this, or this probability will always be less than that. So the maximum value will be is this factor. If I'm able to calculate that by any way this maximum value of this, then the receiver will decide that estimated value is nothing but mi, and which is our aim, is to estimate. So this actually rule is called as maximum apostrophe probability rule. And now you can see, now you can see, now you can see this pk. Pk is what? Pk is the a priori probability of the transmitting symbols, and this fx x given mk and fxx. What is this? Pk is the a priori probability that, like, if all symbols are having the equally likely, then the probability of that one will be given as 1 upon m. So it does not depend upon the actually that one. Independent of the transmitted symbols mi, and at the because this probability becomes constant 1 upon m only. Now this fxx is independent of the transmitted symbols, that is, it does not depend upon the mk. So you can see we can consider this as a constant, and this one is also independent of the transmitted symbol mk. So this probability will entirely depend upon this factor, that is fx x given mk, fx x given mk, because this is the only factor in the whole expressions which is actually dependent upon the transmitted symbols. Okay, so we can, and this factor fx x given mk is what? It is nothing but capital L mk, and if you take the log of that, it is nothing but small l mk. So since we want to maximize these terms, and this capital L is what? Log likelihood. This one is the log likelihood functions, and this one is likelihood functions. So to maximize these expressions, we need to only maximize this factor, and since this factor is nothing but likelihood functions, and if you take the log of that one, it is nothing but the log likelihood functions. So if you want to maximize this, it means that we can also maximize the likelihood functions, or we can maximize the log likelihood function. The meaning remains same. Hence, we can set, the receiver can set mk equals to mi. That is, it can decide that mi has been transmitted if our log likelihood function is maximum for k equals to y, because this log likelihood functions will also be maximum when the log likelihood function is maximum. And this will be maximum when this will be maximum. So in the simple sentence, we can easily clearly write that the receiver can set m cap equals to mi if log likelihood function is maximum for k equals to I. So it means the receiver has to do nothing. It has to simply calculate this LMK for k equals to I. That is, there are n numbers of correlators, and for each correlators, the receiver has to calculate this LM1, LM2, LM3, LMK, and for that particular K, where for that correlators, say for the ith correlators, this value is maximum, then the receiver decides that, okay, corresponding to that, it will decide that, okay, for that ith, this M1, M2, M3, suppose ith I is equals to 4, then corresponding to the fourth output of the correlator output, will decide that M4 has been transmitted. So this is nothing. This method is called as maximum likelihood rule, or the decoder which performs this decoding is called as maximum likelihood decoder. So this is a very important, and this maximum likelihood decoder simply tells us that this likelihood functions are log likelihood function. It simply find out the log likelihood functions value, maximum. So, although this topic is not finished till now, I will try to complete this in the next class after giving you the recap what are the things I discussed today. And it has, I'm surprised to see that it has already been 11:57. So actually, I thought that I will complete this, but I could not. No problem. In the next week, in the next class, I will be able to complete. I will be able to complete all these models without leaving any problem or any. If you have any problem, because you may have some other classes, 2 minutes only. So just in this class over here only. If you find any doubt, you can ask me in the next class. For time being, thank you. Thank you for welcome.